Is it just me or does dating feel completely broken right now? Not just for like you or not just in your city and not just like the people that are all around you that you've talked to or you've met, like genuinely everywhere. Because at some point, all the bad dating stories stopped feeling and looking like bad luck and started to look more like a pattern. You talk to someone, it's good, it's consistent, it has potential, and then it just fizzles out. Or it almost becomes something, or it stays in that weird in between phase where you're not dating, but it's definitely something. And we've all started accepting this as like the new normal. Like, yeah, we're all talking to someone or kind of seeing someone or sort of exploring something of like a relationship with someone, but nothing is actually landing. It's like we're all participating in the same thing without really even realizing it. This constant cycle of almosts, kind of like half effort, half interest, half commitment. And honestly, it feels like we're all living in some kind of half interested era. And what's confusing about it is it's not that people don't want something real, right? Everyone says they do. Everyone wants the depth or the connection or something meaningful. But somehow we all keep ending up in things that feel like the opposite of what we're telling everyone we want or what other people want. And I don't think this is a man versus woman type of problem. I don't think it's just your experience either. I think this is much more, it's almost kind of cultural. I think something about the way we're dating right now is fundamentally off because we've created a version of dating where everything looks like connection on the surface, but underneath everything, nothing is actually being built on like this solid foundation. So, welcome back to Chasing Stability. And today I'm asking a question I think a lot of people are quietly thinking. Is dating broken? Or are we just stuck in a pattern that none of us know how to get out of? It honestly feels like we're living in this kind of swipe right era. And not just on our phones, in how we treat each other, where everything feels replaceable, where nothing really has to be worked through because there's always another option that's just like right around the corner. Where the second something feels confusing or hard or inconvenient, we don't lean in. We pull back, we detach, we move on, all of us. But the more I've thought about it, it's not even just the swipe right era, it's deeper than that. It's like we're in this almost era where everything is almost something, almost a relationship, almost commitment, almost consistency, almost love. You're talking every day, but it's not defined. You're building something, but it's not stable. You feel something, but you can't fully trust it. And the hardest part is it looks close enough to real that you stay in it longer than you should because it's not nothing, but it's always never enough. And I think that's where a lot of us are getting stuck. I know I used to. Not in situations where it's obviously wrong, but in these almost that feel like real enough to keep us hoping. And I don't think this is happening by accident. I think there are a few things all colliding at once. And it's created this environment where dating feels almost impossible to navigate. It feels like you're just blindfolded walking through this whole terrain you don't know. First, there are just so many options in the wilderness, right? And I don't even mean in a negative way. but we're no longer just dating people in our immediate world like they used to the generations before us. We are dating in a digital universe. You're not just being compared to the people in someone's daily life, you're now being compared to every person they could possibly meet or follow, match with, or just literally message any time of the day they wanted. It's not just online either, it's everywhere. People are always available. I've seen this play out in my own life. When my ex and I broke up, he started dating someone else like 2 weeks later, right? Which great for him. Who cares? The months went by, we didn't talk, we didn't see each other, nothing, which is how it should be, no complaints. But the first time we saw each other again, he told me something that like really knocked the wind straight out of me and really hit me in my core. And it stuck with me. And who knows if it was to hurt me or to just be honest or just to like whatever. But he said that when he was with me, there was a girl at the gym that every couple of weeks she would ask him if he was still in a relationship, just casually, over and over again, month after month, and followed it up with, when you're not, let me know. And she eventually got her wish, right? Because that's who he's with now. And this isn't a poor me and like, ooh, some kind of shade moment that I'm throwing this like hate. It was just when he told me, it kind of all clicked in my mind. Something in me, it deepened my understanding of dating because it's not just social media anymore, is it? It's not just dating apps. It's leaked into everywhere in our world. There's always someone watching. There's always someone waiting. Someone ready to step in the second there's an opening. And when you're constantly exposed to that, it does something, right? It plants this idea that there's always another option, that there's always someone else out there, that maybe something better is just one step away. And I want to make one thing clear about something in that situation too. If someone is really solid in what they have, if they like really value the relationship they're in, none of this should matter. They shut it down. They set the boundary. They don't let someone continue to disrespect their relationship. If you're in a solid relationship, they create boundaries. Hence to why this one didn't work out for me. But they should be protecting what they have. But that's kind of the point, right? Because in this like swipe right almost era, a lot of people aren't doing that. They're staying just open enough for the next thing to like come on in. And whether we want to admit it or not, that changes how people show up, even subconsciously. Because when everything feels replaceable, nothing gets handled with care. Things get harder, you get replaced. There's confusion, they move on. Something requires effort or patience or for them to grow, there's always an easier option waiting. And because of that, nothing gets the chance to actually build. No foundation, no depth, no resilience. Everything stays in this temporary gray area. And then you layer on top of that, we're all a little unhealed in this era too. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. I mean that in a very real human way, that we are all very much unhealed. We've all been through things, or most of us, situationships, heartbreak, disappointment, confusion. We've lived out every scenario of these relationships that we can. And instead of fully processing those things, a lot of us just keep dating through them. Jump right in, never learn yourself for the better, or maybe face the things about yourself that you really don't truly want to admit, or maybe you just don't want to understand. So now You have people who want something real, but don't actually feel safe enough to build something real with someone. People who crave depth, but pull back the second it requires vulnerability. People who say they want commitment, but aren't fully available for it. And that creates this push and pull energy everywhere in the dating hemisphere. And I understand this to like my deepest core. It's who I was, it was how I moved until I finally started therapy to heal my inner child. And then there's this shift that's happening in energy too, where it feels like the masculine is retreating and the feminine is overextending. Women are showing up, they're trying, they're communicating, they're holding space, they're giving more and becoming exhausted because they're all in their masculine energy. And men, well, a lot of them have disconnected completely. And honestly, let's just be real here, for a good reason. They've disconnected from themselves, from what they want, from how they actually lead or build something stable. And I'm not saying that to blame either side. Because again, this isn't a men versus women problem. I think it's truly a cultural one. We're all reacting to the same environment in very different ways. We're all adapting to the same patterns that we're living day in and day out. And when you combine all of that, too many options, unhealed people, fear of vulnerability, disconnection, constant replacement, you get exactly what we are experiencing right now. A generation of people who want real love, but are stuck in patterns that make it almost impossible to build it. And I think that's the most frustrating part. It's not that people don't care. It's like men are in this place where they want to be relied on so bad, but women are in a place where they're too scared to trust or believe that that's even possible. And both of them are in these places because of all of the hurt they've endured from each other, which leads to people not knowing how to stay. Because staying requires choosing someone when other options exist and they're right there waiting in the shadows. Building something when it's not perfect, working through things instead of restarting every single time. And we've lost that somewhere. And I think this is where the real problem starts to show up, because it's not that people don't want the real love. I really, truly do believe that everyone does. But people want the depth. They want the connection. They want something stable, something meaningful, something that actually lasts, no matter what they actually say. We are hardwired as humans for it. But wanting it and knowing how to choose it or build it, protect it, and stay in it are two completely different things. Because real love doesn't live in the almost. It doesn't live in confusion. It doesn't live in half effort. It doesn't live in 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It requires clarity. It requires consistency. It requires emotional availability. It requires choosing the same person over and over and over again, even when it's not new or it's not perfect, and it damn sure is not effortless. And that's where a lot of us get stuck, because we've gotten so used to this almost era that when something real does show up, it feels unfamiliar. And honestly, sometimes even uncomfortable. I know I feel that way when it feels right. We start to question it. We second guess it. We look for problems that aren't there, or we don't recognize it at all because it doesn't come with these like high lows that we've been conditioned to expect in these relationships. And on the other side of that, there are people who aren't ready for something real yet in general. But instead of stepping out of the dating pool completely, they stay in it, half showing up, half invested, half choosing. And that's how the cycle just keeps going because these people aren't even dating for something real. They're dating just to be connected in a superficial way. So now you have people who want something real interacting with people who aren't fully ready to give it. And no one is really saying that out loud. We just call it out as dating being hard, but it's deeper than that. We've created a completely new dynamic where connection is easy to start, but it's hard to sustain, way harder than it ever used to be before. And I think this is a part of the conversation we don't talk about enough either. What happens after things end? Because everyone talks about dating being hard, but no one really talks about how people leave situations. I know for me, there have definitely been situations where guys have walked away from us and completely thrown me under the bus. I was painted as the problem, like I was the crazy one, the emotional one, the difficult one. The list goes on and on. And for a long time, that messed with me. Of course it did. Because you start questioning yourself like, wait, was I the problem? Did I handle things wrong? Was I asking for too much? But when I really sat with that thought process, honestly, a lot of the reactions I had came from what I was experiencing in the relationship. The inconsistency, the confusion, the lack of clarity. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I definitely had things I needed to work on too, but that's the difference. I looked at it. I sat with it. I owned my side. I've worked on myself to a point where I know where I've messed up in most of my relationships. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of dating right now because it's easy to take shots at someone else's character rather than look at your own and fully own it and master it and change it and become someone better from it. And when people don't do that, nothing actually changes. They just move on and bring the same habits, the same patterns, the same avoidance into the next person. So now you don't have one confusing situation, you have a cycle. Different person, same dynamic. And until you start being honest about that, we're all just going to keep repeating the same patterns. I know that for a fact. I did it. I lived it. I don't know how many times it took me to unlearn my pattern. I think a big part of the problem too is where we're getting our advice from about relationships. We're learning how to date from social media, from people who are also confused, from trends that reward detachment or games and emotional distance. We're being taught to care less, pull back first before you get hurt. Don't show up too much, but show up enough. Don't be too available, but be available, but expect them to be way more available than you ever are offering up. And then we wonder why nothing feels real or connected because you can't build something genuine while constantly trying to protect yourself from feeling anything at all. At some point, someone has to break the pattern. So here's the thing then. We know this is what's happening, right? Right now. Then what do we do with this information? Because one, you can't control the whole culture. You can't control the person that you're in a relationship with. You can't control how other people date. You can't make someone be ready. You can't force depth where there isn't any, but you can choose how you show up inside of it. And I think that starts with this: stop adjusting yourself to fit what's common. Just because confusion is normal right now all around us, it doesn't mean you have to accept it. Just because half effort is everywhere does not mean you have to entertain it. You don't have to meet people at the level they're showing up at. You can decide what feels right for you and stand in that with like your heart on your sleeve. That might mean things don't progress as often. It might mean you walk away more. It might mean your dating life feels quieter than it ever has for now. But quiet is not the same as empty. Quiet is where clarity very much lives. And I think a big part of this too is being honest with yourself about what you actually want, not what's convenient, not what's available, not what almost works, or running back to what almost worked. What do you actually want? And are you choosing in alignment with that? Or are you participating in the same patterns, hoping for a different outcome? Because if you want something real, you have to be willing to move differently than what is normal right now and what might have been normal for you before. You have to be willing to leave when it's unclear, not entertain inconsistency, not build something on potential alone, not stay in these almost situations, even though they feel close, but they're never going to be what you want. And you know that from the beginning. And that doesn't make you difficult. Okay. And that's a narrative that needs to change. It makes you intentional. And I'll be really honest about this part. Okay. That season is not easy. There was a stretch of time, like for a year and a half, where I was very, very alone. And I remember watching everyone around me have the things I wanted: relationships, consistency, someone to do life with, someone to have kids with, someone to even just fight with. And it messes with you a little because you start wondering, am I being too picky? Should I just give something a chance? Maybe this is just what dating looks like right now. And it's really tempting in that space too to just accept something that kind of fits, something that gives you just enough to not feel alone anymore. But I had this realization at some point in that year. If I say yes to something I don't actually want, I might be blocking what I do. And that doesn't mean something perfect is just waiting around the corner, but it does mean you stop filling your life with things that don't align with what you're actually hoping for. And I think that's important to say because choosing not to settle can feel lonely before it feels right. But that doesn't mean it's wrong, which is why I think dating isn't completely broken. But the way most people are participating in it right now isn't built for something lasting. And once you see that like full picture and like pull yourself out of it and try to like learn everyone else and yourself, you stop taking it so personally. You stop thinking, what's wrong with me? Why does this keep happening to me? And you start realizing this is what's happening out there. And from that place, you can choose differently. You can choose depth over convenience, clarity over confusion, consistency over potential. even if it takes longer, even if it looks different than what everyone else is doing. Because the goal isn't to keep up with the culture, it's to find something real within it. And in my opinion, that's still very possible. If this episode felt a little too familiar, send it to someone who's been saying dating just feels weird or dating's broken, dating sucks, because it definitely does. But it doesn't have to define how you experience it. Make sure you're following Chasing Stability so you don't miss out on what's coming next. We've got a lot more real conversations ahead. And just a little update, I'm starting to do bi-weekly episodes for the foreseeable future. So seriously, make sure you're following so you don't miss those notifications. Move through the rest of your week with this idea just running around in your mind, okay? Don't settle into the almost. Don't normalize confusion, and don't forget what you actually want out of a relationship. All right, friends, date with intention, not just availability. This is Chasing Stability, and I will meet you in the in between next Tuesday.